Monarch Nation, we are back in the Lion's Den with Coach Angie. How you doing?
Yeah, good, Mike. Good. All good.
All right, we're happy to have you. So, pretty good couple of weeks since we last talked. You guys went 2-0-1. And last time we talked about Ashlyn winning the defensive player of the week, and she wins it 2 weeks in a row. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. But let's first start with South Alabama. They're a really talented Sun Belt team. You go down to Mobile and you end up beating them 1-0.
hmm
Talk to us a little bit about that game and what do they do well to make them such a good competitor?
Yeah, well, credit to them. They've kind of monopolized the Sun Belt for the longest time. And then we arrive and we kind of turn that in its head a little bit. So I don't think they love us too much. But no, it's a great game, but they're a good team. And the reason I think they're good is that I respect the fact that kind of they want to play. They want to play good soccer. They have talented players. I think a little bit like us, they have a good balance of US based players and international to kind of sprinkle through that. And I just feel we've played them 3 times now, and every time it's such a great game to be involved in. I always, as a coach, you want to coach your team and you want to compete in that moment. And obviously, you're trying to win the game. But I think there's some games you really enjoy being part of as a coach. And I always enjoy playing them because it's a proper game of soccer.
All right, and following that up, you played Georgia Southern, and in a game you called scrappy and had its own challenges. But you guys, another win, 1-0. Talk to us about what made this such a scrappy and challenging game for the Monarchs.
Yeah, well, you go from one extreme to another. We talk about South Al, and then we talk about Georgia Southern, and Chris has done a great job with them and shaping the team how they want to play. But it's completely the opposite. They're more direct in their style. They have some great athletes. They want to get in behind you a lot, and that poses a real challenge for a team like us who want to play because you first have to deal with the long ball. You have to deal with that pressure that's constant from their intensity, and it's really hard as a player to go from dealing with intensity and being frantic and covering for each other and winning headers and then get the ball down in a heartbeat. You got to then have composure and play, and that's difficult. And so that's what makes that game much more difficult for a team like us, I think, than the South Alabama game. The South Al game, you just need to be better in the moments when you have the ball. And the Georgia Southern game, you need to deal with. We have a phrase here: win the battle and earn the right to play, and you have to win that battle first. Otherwise, you just don't get the right or the time or the moment to possess and play your style. So, both of them are 1-0. I think the South Al game, we were whole second half, we were real knocking on the door and played some of our best stuff, I thought. And then Georgia Southern, we did well for a stretch, and then we go up a goal, and then it becomes waves, and you have to be strong defensively. And so it's 2 different games that we have to face, 2 different challenges. And as a team, we come out on the right side of it. So super proud of them.
So that makes 7 shutouts in 14 games.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about this team that has been able to be so successful on the defensive end this season?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. I think we have a real philosophy that we want to press the ball. So our strikers will go and be aggressive. And, I think it's pretty straightforward if you think about it rationally, that if you can win the ball further up the field, you're closer to the goal to create more chances. But what is also a consequence of having that aggressive press is that you spend less time in your own half defending. The ball is spent more time in their half, which gives you territory. It gives you much more possession. It keeps you further away from your goal. So that's part of it. Second part, we have a team who work very hard together for each other. And they're propped up with our keepers and our back line. These guys at the back do such a good job and take such pride in being really good defensively. And so when we come in after a game and we've won, it's like, yeah, good game, blah, 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 and a shutout. That matters to us. And it's something that we've built over the last few years, that we've been blessed by having some real good centre backs here and some real good goalkeepers in this program. So I think that pride and that sense of pride has just continued on.
All right, and then the last game to recap would be Georgia State. This is a 2-2 draw in Atlanta against a team that's been struggling this season. You called the team disjointed and undisciplined in the second half.
Yeah, we were not so much undisciplined in who we were, or just getting involved in things. It was more our shape. We just kind of lost a little bit of our shape in that game. And I always felt this was going to be a tricky one on Sunday because they had 1 day's extra rest. We're then playing at 4:00 in the afternoon. It's 85 degrees, and it hasn't been that way in Norfolk for a little bit now. And they're a team who've got some good players, and their record doesn't reflect the team they have. They've got much more quality than that. And I think if I'm them, I'm really frustrated to be where they are right now because they're better than that. So we go and we get an early goal and we settled a little bit. And then we come out the second half and it became a little bit disjointed from us. And we were actually thinking about, changing our shape a little bit. And then they get the goal that makes it 1-1. Then we're chasing a little bit because we obviously want to win that game quite badly. And then they score and they make it 2-1 with, I think, 90 seconds left. And, you talk about resilience, you talk about fight, you talk about character. These are all things that you need in a team that are going to be successful. And then we throw everything at them and we get a PK with like a minute left. And the composure from Rhea to score, if you can paint a picture, she has all their fans behind the goal. And their fans are literally about 2 yards from the side of the field because of the dynamics of that stadium. And she's poised. She needs to score this to tie up the game in a game that's been end to end. And she just takes 2 big deep breaths and smashes the ball in the back of the net. And what a captain and what a leader and what a great weekend for her. She really, really showed such great desire. And, Reyes came here from West Virginia, obviously a exceptional program. And she wanted to be part of something that was close, was like a family, that she felt she could contribute and really help this program continue to develop. And I think she has 7 goals in the season now. She's just been phenomenal and a harder working player and more humble you will never meet. So I was individually chuffed for her this weekend.
So you mentioned it. I mean, she came here in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
How much has recruiting changed for you as a coach over the last few years with the kind of the expansion of the portal?
Oh, yeah, it's changed. It's unrecognizable now. Things that we used to do in the past, we used to sit down with a board and we'd say, right, these are the guys that are coming in this year. There's the guys that we've got next year. Let's look at these ones for the future. This is what we need. Now, it's a waste of time. You're as well scrapping the piece of paper because you almost are trying to build a new team every single year. And that's always what you've done as a coach here, because every year you have players who graduate. So maybe 5 or 6 players leave, 5 or 6 come in. Now you have that aspect. You have players who maybe want to transfer. And then on top of that, we're now going to have a roster cap of 28. It's just, you just don't know where you stand. So you don't want to twist or stick. You want to kind of leave your options open a little bit. But you don't want to miss the next best thing. So it's all over the place. I think the game is unrecognizable now from a recruiting perspective, where it's been even 5 years ago.
Now, I understand why they're doing the 28, but what are your feelings on that change? Because, I mean, it's a pretty big change for a lot of the sports on campus.
Yeah, I personally think it's fair. I think it gives parity. The only issue I have is the timing of it. The way that we work in college sports, we don't work with 6 months lead time. We're talking sometimes 2-year lead time. So we need to be allowed time to kind of organize that and make sure we've got all the ducks in a row. To throw that in right away is it's quite disturbing for a lot of programs. But the philosophy of it, the 28 for us, I think is a fair number. I think it also maybe stops some programs, bigger programs, as they sometimes suggest, that they monopolize 35, 40 players on a roster. I think that's extremely unfair for an athlete to join a program that has maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 4 chances to play. Now, people would say, well, it's silly for them, to go put themselves in that environment. But you know what it's like when the draw of a big school comes along. Sometimes, kids and parents get dragged into thinking, oh, it's an ACC school. It's an SEC school. I'm going to be able to wear that hat. Dad's going to wear it. It's going to be awesome. Well, for me, that doesn't mean much if you don't really feel you've contributed. So I think from that perspective, in the long run, it's going to allow players to recognize that when they're in a program, they're going to be chosen to play. But it also makes coaches be a little bit more honest and have the integrity to say, we got to really choose the guys that we think are really going to genuinely help us, So I think from that perspective, it brings fairness. But I just think the model, we need time to blend into that model.
Yeah, the fundraising will be a challenge for a lot of schools our size.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about this Friday. It's senior day. Texas State is coming to town, 7 o'clock at the ODU soccer complex. We'll need a big crowd out there to give these girls a hand. But what about to you is so special about senior day? What is that moment like for you?
Yeah, if I can be honest with you, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I really, really don't. It's one of these traditions in American college sports that I understand and respect 100%, but I think it's the worst possible time to do this. We used to do it last home game of the season, and you could imagine a picture. We had 5, 6, 7 seniors that would be the last game on the field, hugely emotional. Their parents are all here, their families are all here, hugely emotional. We have our younger players on the team are really upset because this is the last game on the field with those seniors, really emotional. And then you have to go and win the game to qualify for the tournament or something crazy like that. And it's just too much. I think I struggle because I get emotional, thinking about it. So we moved it and made it a little bit earlier, because I think that just too many factors were coming into play, and it's really hard to make that adjustment. So I think it's a wonderful occasion. I personally just think there's too much emotion at that time for me, because these are not just players for me. These are young women that I've spent the last 4 years with, 5 years even knowing. And we're in our lives almost every day. So it's really hard. And I can feel myself getting a bit emotional here, but it's a really tough day to stand there and thank them. And 7 minutes later, you're going to kick off a game that could have a huge significance in your season. So we do spend some time. I always make sure I'm with these guys a little bit later away from the season. But yeah, I think it's a little bit bittersweet. But I can't rave enough about special kids, and we have 3 just awesome guys. Denai and Emily and Rhea are just so special to this program.
So I like your point about how it's tough to go from and it being so late in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be better off in the first game of the year to just honor them then and then get it kind of out of the way?
Yeah, we had it planned for that. I'll be honest with you, we had it planned, and then it snuck up on us in a little bit, and there was just a few personal dynamics with some of our players. We just felt we couldn't do it, so we pushed it back. But yeah, I think 2 years ago was the first year I said to the team, first home game in conference, it's going to be a senior day, and they hated it. They're like, no way, and I'm like, yeah, wait, that's what we're doing. So we've kind of came to a little bit of compromise this year, but I really, really hope we can get a good crowd, because it's a big game. Texas State are a good team. They're legit. Every time you play against a Texas team, I feel I'm like, oh no, because they just come here and they're so direct and they're so full of intensity and energy. And we just need that from anywhere we can get it, behind us. So I really hope that the crowd can come out for this game, and also to recognize these guys that have been, you talk about student athletes giving everything for a cause, and they've been such great role models and leaders, and just everything that you would want from a student athlete at Old Dominion. So I really hope we can get a good crowd.
And champions. I mean,
yeah.
these
Well,
girls
that'd
are
be
winning.
nice too.
Yeah. All right. And then, well, so you talked about their direct style of play. How does their style of play contrast Old Dominion's?
Yeah, well, what I would say is they want to try and, they want to try and get territory in the attacking half as quick as they can. They're not going to overpass. They're not going to be super creative and take risks. They just don't take risks in their own half. They want to get that ball forward and play to their strengths, which is a ton of athleticism. They're very direct. They maybe get a ball in and one player is really going to go drive and try and create something herself. Whereas for us, we're a little bit more team orientated. They like it when the game is stretched and long and there's a lot of spaces. We like the opposite, when we can defend together and be compact, and when we can win the ball when we're together and we can combine. So it really couldn't be any different, I guess, in our style.
All right, and then next Wednesday will be the last home game of the season at 6 p.m. at ODU Soccer Complex. So again, please, fans, go out and support this team. It'll be your last chance to get to see them. Talk to us about Marshall's play style and what they are, how much of a challenge they are.
Yeah, well, Marshall have changed their coach this year. So new coach, new playing style, very very build up, ball possession orientated. They want to build up, they want to be patient, they want to try and create opportunities to attack. So they're again very different. And I'm painting a picture here. Every single week is different who we play. Every style is different. That's what's so challenging about the women's side in the Sun Belt. It really is. It's like every team, you can't just say, right, okay, here we go, let's do our thing, because you got to consider who you're playing against. So Marshall, credit, they're trying to play good soccer. They're trying to build their program back up. And, Rafa's done a good job getting their team shaped and quite a few internationals. So they'll play a possession type style.
All right, and then I think the last game before we talk next will be on the road against, I think it's Arkansas State on the 27th, or is it App State? I wrote A State, and now I'm thinking, is it App State or Arkansas State?
Well, what we do is we play Marshall on the Wednesday, then we travel to play Arkansas State on the Sunday, and then we play App State away on the Thursday. So it's a doozy of a last 2 weeks for us. It's a lot of travel right before the tournament, which is difficult, So Arkansas State we haven't played there before. I have no idea how I'm getting there. I just know that there'll be a pitch somewhere that we'll have to arrive at. And they're kind of up and down a little bit this year. So really the key thing for us is obviously we're home on Friday, we're home Wednesday. And it's two big home games that we need to try and take as many points as we can so that we're not pushing ourselves to try and need something from the last two games, if that makes sense. And they changed the tournament format this year. So we play there's 14 teams in our conference and only 8 go to the tournament, which is a really low ratio if you compare. For the men's side, for example, I think they have 8 from 10, so it's really difficult to get in the tournament. So that has to be a focus, and that's our only focus right now is, can we pick up points on Friday? Can we pick up points on Wednesday and get us closer to being over that line?
All right. And then before we hit record today, we had a brief conversation about officiating in the Sun Belt and how you shared a good point about how different men's players are versus women's players are in the United States. So I'd love you share that point with our fans.
Yeah, let me try and be politically correct here. Officiating is tough. I say this all the time. When was the last time that you've seen a professional soccer player become a referee? It never happens. And it never happens for a reason, because they get abuse all the time. Everyone's always complaining at them. So I always think to myself, if you're not going to step up and do it, then you need to just chill a little bit sometimes, because these guys are doing the best they can. But it's interesting because we were talking a little bit about the number of cards in the men's game versus the women being very different. And is the game refereed differently, and I don't think it is. I just think there's a little bit more maybe testosterone flying about in the men's game, where if it's a physical tackle, it's a little bit of confrontation at times. And one of the things that I was talking to you about is that when I first came to the States from back home, from Scotland, our game kind of reflected the men's very much. If there was a tough tackle, our women would get up and they would be all, confrontational and complaining to the referee and moan. And I came here and I could not believe, one, the intensity of the game, the physicality of the game, and there was tackles flying in, and the women's players here just get up and they're like, that's a foul. All right, it's a foul. And away they go. They have no comment to say to anyone. They just get on with it. And I think it's an incredible thing that never gets spoken about. And if there's any coach in Europe comes and is part of this environment, that would be one of the first things that would be apparent the minute you start working and coaching here, is that just the ability or the understanding that it's a contact game. I'm going to get hit, but if I get a foul, I'm up and I'm away. There's no big deal. So I think it's just an interesting thing. The men and the women's game's different from that perspective. Just I guess personality and how that works. But to contrast the women's game here to the women's game in Europe, it's just one thing that I recognize quite quickly. The referees don't get anywhere near the abuse here that they get back home, which is a good thing,
Yeah. So I've noticed a lot of yapping at the men's games. Do you find that to be as common in the women's game?
Yeah, well, women like a moan too. Let's be honest. We're not any better than the guys. We do like to complain, but I think it's just sometimes it's men are just a little bit wired different from women. I think there's more confrontational aspects and just their personalities than there is in women. Women certainly have plenty to say, but they're maybe less confrontational, I would say, in that.
That's fair.
I'm not going to say any more because you're going to get me in trouble here, Mike.
No, we won't get you in trouble. All right. So we always try to end with a fun question. You've been here a while. You know a lot of good restaurants in the area.
Oh,
What's your favorite restaurant to go out to?
wow! You really have put me in a spot here. I'm a kind of creature of habit. I live in East Beach, so I'm a longboards kind of girl. Sit out on the deck and enjoy some fresh fish and enjoy the weather. I like there. If I'm going to be in town in Norfolk, Shucks is just fantastic for seafood and steak. So, but I'm a big foodie and I like to go and kind of sample around a little bit. But I also like to be somewhere that's nice, and I like to be on the beach. I like to be in the water. So I guess I'm giving longboards a big shout out right now, because that and Asian food's probably my favorite.
Okay. So you said you're a foodie. Is there a new spot that you found recently that kind of
Mm.
surprised you?
Yeah, so there's a place called Salmich. It's on Little Creek. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a sandwich restaurant from Buffalo. And
That's right.
yeah, and someone mentioned it to me. And I was driving home one day and I was starving. I hadn't had breakfast. And I thought, oh my God, I could go just a big hunky sandwich or something. And I said, oh, let's go in this place. I could not believe it. Like homemade, proper French fries. Proper, as close as you could get to Scottish chips. And then these Philly cheesesteak and the made to order burgers. That was a find. Now I wouldn't eat it. I wouldn't eat in there every day because I think I didn't need to eat anything for another 6 hours. But what a find that place was. And when I mention it to people, they're like, oh yeah. And they talk about it that blasé way, Mike, as if it's like, yeah, as if it's McDonald's or something. It is legit. Like if you want that type of food that day, that's the place. Those fries are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's good football food. That's how I
Yes.
would call it.
Yes.
And for those unaware, I believe the name is the two owners, their husband and wife, it's their names put together. I think it's
Oh,
Sal and Michelle.
very cool. That's very
So
cool. But yeah, shout out to them. I was like floored. I'm like, this is awesome. And they do fish and chips on a Friday, so I've yet to try that.
All right, I might have to go on Friday. But thank you so much for joining us today. Get out to the ODU Soccer Complex this Friday and next Wednesday to support these girls as they go and keep fighting for that 4th straight championship. So thank you again, Angie. Go Monarchs.
Great to talk to you, Mike. Thank you.